Tonight on ABC News Live Prime, from the nation's capital, a plea for justice and action.
Us Epstein survivors have been discussing creating our own list. We know the names.
The survivors of decades of abuse at the hands of Jeffrey Epstein band together on Capitol Hill, meeting with lawmakers and delivering a strong message to President Trump.
I am a Republican. I voted for you. Don't do that. I would love to sit down so he can look me in my face and tell me that I'm a hoax.
My in-depth interview with those survivors, plus my one-on-one with the woman previously only known publicly as Epstein victim number 1, Marina Lacerda, speaking out now for the first time. What was Jeffrey like as a person? Charming, funny, serious?
There was nothing charismatic about him. He was very selfish. He knew exactly how to own you.
All that and more on a very special edition of ABC News Live Prime.
From ABC News in Washington, this is Prime with Linsey Davis.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Linsey Davis. Thanks so much for streaming with us tonight. We begin with an extraordinary show of force here in our nation's capital. 2 separate rallies where survivors of accused sex trafficker Jeffrey Epstein stood in solidarity, echoing one clear message. Some of them speaking out in public for the very first time, calling on lawmakers to demand that the Justice Department release all of the Epstein records. Tonight, with mounting pressure, the petition that could make those records public is now gaining traction with more than 200 signatures and inching closer to the magic number needed to force a House vote. Coming up, we'll hear more from lawmakers on both sides of the aisle, plus more of my emotional interview with Marina Lacerda, the woman who provided critical evidence that ultimately led to Jeffrey Epstein's arrest, and a powerful sit-down with several other women who say that they, too, are survivors of Epstein's sexual abuse and trafficking, telling me today that they are ready to make their own list of Epstein's known associates. There's a lot to get to tonight, but first, ABC's Jay O'Brien leads us off on Capitol Hill, where he was a witness to all of the action front and center today. Hi, Jay.
Yeah, Lindsay, those women you talked to before they spoke to you were here at a press conference on Capitol Hill, pushing for full transparency, as they say, a vote on whether or not the Epstein files should be compelled to be released. They told their stories through tears.
I was only 14 years old when I was introduced to Jeffrey Epstein.
Tonight, 10 women who say they were abused by sex offender Jeffrey Epstein.
Thank you.
Coming together for the first time with a public plea to Congress and President Trump. Release the FBI's Epstein files. This is not a hoax, they said. It's not politics. This is our lives.
I ask you, President Trump and members of Congress, why do we continue to cover up sexual abuse and assault? Who are we covering for? Let the public know the truth.
Epstein and his associates.
One after another.
I am here.
The women telling their stories.
I was only 14 years old.
Jenna-Lisa Jones says Epstein assaulted her in his Palm Beach mansion when she was just 14 years old.
I remember crying the entire way home, thinking about how I couldn't ever tell anyone about what actually happened in that house. This guy was so rich and had so many pictures with so many famous people, and no one would have ever believed me if I told them.
President Trump, who was friends with Epstein for a decade in the 90s, once promised to release the Epstein files, but today called the issue a hoax.
This is a Democrat hoax that never ends.
On Capitol Hill, I brought the president's words to the women.
The president has said that this Epstein issue is a hoax, is the words that he used. Can we get your reactions to what you think when you hear him say that?
Mr. President Donald J. Trump, I am a registered Republican, not that that matters because this is not political. However, I cordially invite you to the Capitol to meet me in person so you can understand this is not a hoax. We are real human beings. This is real trauma.
The women calling Trump's words devastating, like, quote, being gutted from the inside out.
We are tired of looking at the news and seeing Jeffrey Epstein's name and saying that this is a hoax. We are tired of it.
And there was something else. Sitting down with ABC's Linsey Davis, the women saying they were appalled the number 2 official at the Department of Justice, Deputy Attorney General Todd Blanche, the president's former lawyer, traveled to speak with Epstein's accomplice, Ghislaine Maxwell, currently serving 20 years in prison for child sex trafficking.
She was 100% involved. She was complicit, she was enabling, she was enmeshed with Jeffrey Epstein.
Linsey asking about Maxwell's highly unusual transfer to a minimum security prison just days after her interview with the Deputy Attorney General.
What has been your response to the DOJ going and talking with her, to her being put into a minimum security camp, and even in talks about, potentially her being pardoned?
I think that perhaps Mr. Blanche was just ill-informed. It doesn't matter what Ghislaine Maxwell says. I really think there are not many people out there who are taking what Ghislaine Maxwell says seriously. But it's now the responsibility, once again, of Congress to put in the action so that we don't just hear from Ghislaine Maxwell.
Linsey Davis accuses Maxwell of grooming her to be raped by Epstein.
I have had quite a few nightmares, if I'm honest, since she's been transferred. I just feel like it's kind of like a slow transition to her being released, her going from a prison to basically like a summer camp.
President Trump has not ruled out pardoning Maxwell.
By show of hands, is there anybody who would support Ghislaine Maxwell getting out of prison?
Only if I'm there when she gets out. And we can show up collectively.
And Jay, we know that there's a petition that could force a House vote which compels the Justice Department to release the Epstein files in full. Where do things stand on that?
And Linsey, that was the purpose of this press conference today, to show support for that petition of Thomas Massie, Republican of Kentucky, Ro Khanna, Democrat of California. Right now, if all Democrats sign on, it would take 6 Republicans signing on, and there are already 4 who have added their names to that petition. Thomas Massie and 3 others, including Congresswoman Marjorie Taylor Greene. Just 2 more, again, if they get the support of all Democrats, and that would force a vote on the House floor over whether those Epstein records should be released. Linsey.
Jay O'Brien from the Capitol Force, thanks so much, Jay. And coming up, my interview with that woman previously known publicly as victim number 1, Marina Lacerda. And in the next hour, more of my conversation with many other survivors. We were on Capitol Hill a short time ago to catch up with the chair of the House Oversight Committee, James Comer. His committee is investigating the Epstein case. Here's what he had to say. I know you had a chance to speak with some of the survivors in person. What did they have a chance to tell you?
Well, it's just terrible. I mean, you realize how awful Epstein and Maxwell were, but you also realize how the federal government failed these victims. Because of the 6 that we spoke with yesterday, I believe at least 5 of them had spoken to FBI officials, had spoken to law enforcement officials. Many had given depositions, and yet nothing ever happened to anyone until Epstein was finally arrested, and then we learned that he was let out and continued to operate in the same way that he was operating prior to his arrest. So many times, if not every time, it was apparent the federal government failed these victims, and they never got the justice they deserved.
In response to President Trump initially calling this a Democratic hoax, today some of the survivors who did speak out said, this is not a hoax, this is not about politics, we deserve to be treated and humanized. In response, in the Oval Office a few moments later, President Trump again called it a hoax and a distraction from the success of the country, as he described it. Where do you land on this? Is this a hoax?
It's not a hoax, but what I think President Trump was referring to is the Democrats are trying to create a false narrative that Donald Trump was somehow involved in Epstein Island and things like that. That's what, in my opinion, Donald Trump meant by calling it a hoax. It's a hoax that he has any liability. It's a hoax that he's trying to cover up for anyone. I subpoenaed Pam Bondi and the Department of Justice for the Epstein documents, and they turned over 32,000 pages, and we expect more documents any day now. So I found that the Trump administration is taking this seriously and is trying to be transparent.
What we heard also directly from the survivors is they just want all of the files to be released. Right. Can you tell them that will happen? Mm-hmm. If so, what kind of time frame are we talking about?
Well, we, as quick as we got the 32,000 pages, the oversight staff read over to make sure there were no names that were listed that shouldn't be listed. That was one of the themes that many of the survivors said. Some wanted their names to be public, some did not want their names to be public. They have children now, and they've got their own families, and it's not something that they want publicized, but they want justice, and they want people to know how awful Epstein and Maxwell were, that made it very clear they didn't think Maxwell deserved a pardon or any type of commutation. So I think at the end of the day, every document that we get will be public, and I fully expect to get all the documents.
Some of the survivors have said that they believe Ghislaine Maxwell is getting preferential treatment by being moved, for example. Do you think that the DOJ has followed protocol, and what do you think about her changing the location of her prison?
Well, with what we've subpoenaed with respect to the Department of Justice, they're going to have to turn over records as to what the decision process was and why she was moved to that other prison. So I don't know what the answer is, why she was moved from Florida to Texas, I believe, but we should be able to find that out with the next batch of documents that we get.
Republican Congressman Thomas Massie has said that with this discharge petition, his concern is that the DOJ cannot be trusted to release all of the relevant files. Do you believe that the DOJ can be trusted?
I do. I've talked to the people at the Department of Justice. I've talked to people at the White House. I think they get the message that the American people want to know the truth. This isn't a Republican issue or a Democrat issue. As I travel, not just to Kentucky, but all across America, people come up to me and ask about the Epstein files, and was there a list, and will we ever know who was bad actors in the Epstein events, and will anyone ever be held accountable? So it's my goal that we get the truth to the American people, that every document is released, and the only redactions on those documents are the names of the victims who do not want their name published. Some do want their names published, and some don't.
Well, what about, Massie also points to the flight log documents where names were redacted, not of victims. Your response to that, do you feel that anyone who was traveling with Jeffrey Epstein should have their name redacted?
No, I think if you were traveling with Epstein, you should, that should be made public, and you'll have an opportunity. Just because you traveled with Epstein doesn't mean you're guilty of anything. But at the end of the day, with this resolution that we passed on the floor today in the rules package, any redaction that the Department of Justice makes on a document, they have to explain what that redaction was. So if they're redacting someone who's on a flight log, that won't cut it with the Oversight Committee. The only redactions are people that should be considered victims.
What does your committee need at this point to follow up on any kind of probe that the DOJ might be a part of?
Well, we want to make sure that we can meet with the attorneys of the victims and the victims, and we want to know, if you were interviewed by the FBI, who was the FBI agent? You know, who did you have a lawyer present? Could we get was it transcribed? We want to know all the information, because if what they were saying was true, and I have every reason to believe that what they were saying was true, then they've reported these crimes and nothing ever happened. Now, it's been my experience, if nothing ever happened, it's usually because of some type of external influence that usually revolves around power or things like that. But it's also important to note, this dates back to 1996. So this dates back to 6 presidential administrations where justice hasn't been served until Epstein was finally arrested, and then Maxwell was finally arrested.
As you may have heard today, the survivors said that if the DOJ does not release a list of names of the client list, so to speak, that they may have their own list that they release. If they do, and the DOJ does not release a list, would your committee go ahead and investigate those names on the list that the survivors provide?
Yes, absolutely. And I encourage the survivors to make a list. I encourage them to make that list public. We want to know who was involved in this. And again, it appears that from what research I've done, a lot of people in Palm Beach knew Epstein. That Maxwell had social circles that included, people like the Clintons. The Epstein circle included people like the Trumps. But that doesn't mean they were involved in their crimes, nor does it mean that they had any knowledge of their crimes. I know President Trump said that he kicked Epstein out of his property or club. I don't know if it was Mar-a-Lago or what, but I think that when the president talks about a hoax, what he's talking about is you've got a lot of Democrats that are running on MSNBC and other liberal networks trying to imply that Donald Trump was involved, that he's covering up either because of his behavior in the past or because of some of his buddies' behavior. And that's not what I have found. I found that this administration wants to get this off the table. I think the president's tired of having to talk about it at press conferences. But I do think the president's concerned that they don't, out people that may have had an association with either Epstein or Maxwell, but did nothing wrong, or out victims who don't want their names released to the public.
Lastly, the survivors have said they have done their jobs. Now it's time for Congress to do its job. Mm-hmm. What do you see as the job of Congress as it pertains to Epstein?
Our job, my job as chairman of the Oversight Committee, my job as a member of this committee is to get answers for the American people. The American people want to know who all was involved in Epstein Island. The American people want to know, did the government know? Was the government spying on some of these influential people? The American people want to know, did the government cover up for criminal behavior? Was it just Epstein and Maxwell? And according to the survivors that we spoke with yesterday, there were more people involved. There were accountants, there were bodyguards, there were drivers. And these are the names that we're going to get from their attorneys, and we're going to use our investigators on the Oversight Committee to seek these individuals out and try to get the truth. But I want to know the truth myself. My family and friends want to know. Everyone that I've spoken with wants to know. And we've been tasked with this by Congress. We passed a resolution on the floor today that solidifies, codifies our investigation. And I think that that's important, that vote, because if we run into obstacles and we end up in court over a subpoena or something, then we can say, this was approved by Congress, and hopefully that'll help us win the battle in court.
Congressman, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you.
Really appreciate it. We are joined now by the number 2 Democrat in the House Minority Whip, Catherine Clark of Massachusetts. Thank you so much for joining us. You heard the conversation there. Common ground, do you agree? Anything that you disagree with what Congressman Comer had to say?
Listen, the chairman of Oversight is saying the right things, so let's act on it. Because while Chairman Comer is saying, Donald Trump didn't mean to call this a hoax. He didn't mean to demean and undercut the victims who so courageously came to Capitol Hill today and told their stories. So why is Donald Trump calling Republicans saying, do not sign on to the bill that would fully disclose all the Epstein files, whatever they might say? We are looking for truth and justice. So I hope the chairman backs up his words that he will pursue this, that he will bring the truth to the American people. But he is being undercut by his own president as he says those words.
What is your response to President Trump once again today, even just minutes after the survivors courageously spoke out and said, this is not a hoax, and then again called it a Democrat hoax?
Yeah, I mean, it begs the question, what is he hiding? What is this change that he is undergoing, where he has gone from, I will release the files, we will have justice, to, it's disgusting to watch these brave women come forward and be undermined again by the president. When he says it's a hoax, he is saying they are liars. And that is to say that to women who have survived horrific abuse, who are putting their lives back together, who didn't be asked to be drawn into any of this, and are trying to say, let's get the truth out there. Let's get the facts. Let's not make this a political football, but let's realize there are real people involved. These women were 14, 15, 16 years old, and the crimes that have happened are outrageous. And so let's get the facts out. And we have a president who's saying this is a hoax and moving the monster partner in Ghislaine Maxwell of Jeffrey Epstein and child sex trafficking to a lower security prison. These women who have survived this abuse are terrified that Donald Trump is going to make a deal with her and pardon her. And they know firsthand how manipulative she is. So today was really a very emotional day, an inspiring day by the courage that I saw, but also just makes us more resolute that the victims deserve the truth, the American people deserve the truth, and that is what we are going to continue to pursue.
Now, let's talk about the discharge petition. Already it seems like there are more than 200 signatures. What do you think the likelihood is that it will pass and therefore compel the DOJ to release all of the Epstein files? And if not, then what?
Yeah, listen, we are going to make sure that we do everything we can, have every single Democrat on that discharge petition, which is a parliamentary tool we use to force a bill to come to the floor. So it's really in Republican hands. We have 4 Republicans that have signed on. Right now we need 6 to hit 218 and push that bill to the floor. So we'll see what happens, but we're going to continue doing work in the Oversight Committee, making sure that the DOJ does comply with the subpoena that was issued, because they haven't. Making sure that we are bringing in former Secretary Acosta, who was the prosecutor in the Jeffrey Epstein case, making sure that we continue to apply the pressure that is needed to get this administration to reveal the truth, whatever that may be.
Just before I move on this, what do you say to those Americans who say, look, food is high, I'm trying to make ends meet. Why are we spending so much time talking about these Epstein files? Why doesn't Congress get to work on my behalf?
Yeah, that is a great question. We have a Republican Party who has put this issue back into play because they're walking back a campaign promise to release the files. But what they're also walking back is a campaign promise to lower the cost of living for everyday Americans. And what we are seeing is not only are they not lowering, they are putting in place policies that are raising the cost of living. Let's just look at health care. When they cut Medicaid, when they cut Medicare, when they cut the Children's Health Insurance Program, that not only takes away health care from 15 million Americans, it rises the cost of premiums of health insurance for every single American. So we are saying right back to the president, don't betray your voters. People voted for you because you said you would do this. And we are going to continue to protect health care, to make sure that we are building affordable housing to meet that crisis, put the American dream back in touch for people. Families at home deserve better than they're getting from this GOP. They have the majority in both houses and the White House. Let's focus together, bring down the cost of living for folks. We're seeing utility bills spike all over this country. Home insurance bills, if you're lucky enough to have a house, spike, and putting home ownership further out of touch for people. These are the issues the American people want us to focus on, and that is what House Democrats are working every single day to make sure that we are bringing down their costs of living.
You mentioned health care. Of course, HHS Secretary RFK Jr. is expected to testify tomorrow. As you know, there are a number of calls for people even asking for him to resign. Your reaction with regard to, in particular, vaccines, and a lot of confusion. Kids are heading back to school at this time and wondering what to do in the wake of mixed messaging that they're getting.
Yeah, I mean, it is chaotic, as are most things with this administration. And what people want from the secretary, what people want from government, is to protect their public health, make sure that they can access health care when they need it, that it's affordable and accessible. And that includes having sane, science-based vaccine protocols, making sure we're keeping our kids safe in school, that people can go about their lives knowing they are protected from disease. And instead, what we are seeing House Republicans doing with the White House is dismantling our public health system, whether it's cancer research, mental health supports, or the CDC. And all of this will be questions for the Secretary tomorrow, but it is really questions for all of my Republican colleagues on how long are you going to sit back and let healthcare be dismantled. And as we go into the end of the fiscal year, where Republicans have yet to come together with a spending plan, we are sitting at the table waiting for them to join us. It's healthcare that is going to be our demand. You can't continue to undermine that and have people be able to afford care when they need it.
As you know, many of your Republican colleagues went home on break and faced very angry town halls from their constituents. President Trump has said that the Big Beautiful Bill, so-called Big Beautiful Bill, has a branding problem, and that needs to be countered. There are several talking points that Republicans are bringing up at this point. Is it a branding problem, or would you say it's something else? And are you and your Democratic colleagues planning on countering some of those talking points?
Yeah, we have done over 1,400 events, town halls in our districts over August, because we are not running away from the people who sent us to Washington. This issue is critical to Americans. They understand that when you are cutting their health care, you are cutting their ability to have opportunity. And so we are out there talking about the cuts to Medicare, the cuts to Medicaid, how devastating it is to take away veterans' health programs, that, you know, we do not create a healthy country when we cut food that goes to hungry children in school lunches. I mean, everything they are doing is continuing to stack the deck against working families. And at the heart of it are these attacks on health care. This is what the House GOP, at this time when we are seeing rising prices in the grocery store, in the housing market, in insurance costs, utilities, they decide to take away 15 million Americans' health care. No wonder their August was rough at home. And I think they were hoping to come back and turn the page, but no amount of rebranding is going to make up for what they have done to dismantle health care in this country.
Whip Clark, we thank you so much for your time. Really appreciate it.
Thank you, Lindsay.
And coming up, Florida plans to become the first state to eliminate all vaccine mandates, including for children. We'll tell you why. Plus, wildfires burning in the east and west with thousands of lightning strikes igniting fires across California while firefighters battle flames in New Jersey. But first, my conversation with the woman formerly known as minor victim number 1 in the 2019 indictment of Jeffrey Epstein, now speaking publicly about her experiences for the first time. What did she say the gig was?
She had said that, you know, I was going to massage somebody, and there wasn't much specifics, but I wasn't expecting what led on to that day. Because I think with Jeffrey Epstein, it starts somewhere, but then it ends, you know, with either you having sex with him, whether you like it or not.
Welcome back. Here at ABC News, over the years, we have spoken to many women who say that they are survivors of abuse at the hands of Jeffrey Epstein and his co-conspirator Ghislaine Maxwell. But for the first time tonight, we hear from Marina Lacerda. Until now, she's been known publicly as Minor Victim 1, as she was called in the 2019 federal indictment of Epstein. But now she is speaking out publicly about her experiences with Epstein's exploitation in New York City, starting in 2002, when she had just turned 14 years old, a teenager living with her family in Astoria, Queens. Thank you very much for talking with us.
Thank you for having me.
What made you decide you were ready to speak out now?
Well, you know, listening to, the girls, the victims speak, on my first therapy session that we all had together. And unfortunately, only 5 women or 6 women came. When there's almost 1,000 women. I was just like these women are so strong. Their voices are strong, their voices are loud. And I think it's important for all women that have been abused, raped, or any kind of abuse to speak up. And I think maybe if I speak, some of the girls that I know will maybe speak too, because there's a lot of us.
Let's go back, and forgive me because I'm going to try to ask you some of these things from the past that you may not remember. But let's just start with your childhood. I know you were born in Brazil, then you moved to Astoria.
Yes.
And what was your upbringing like?
So in Brazil, it was great. I came to New York when I was 9 years old. My mother came before me, but when I came, my mother had met my stepfather at the time. And I would say, I don't know, 2-3 months after that, I started to get sexually abused by my stepfather. I couldn't have any friends. If I did have friends that came over, like my girlfriends, they were getting abused by him. Then somebody came up to me and was like, hey, like your stepfather also sexually harassed me. Do you want to go to the cops? So I went with this young lady, and the cops never believed me. And, you know, at the time, I guess I didn't want to speak the whole truth. From 8 till 13 or 12, it really sucked my life.
And on top of that, there were financial constraints.
Well, after my stepfather left and got arrested, and then we basically lived in one room, me, my mom, and my sister. And my mom couldn't get a job or whatever the case was. So I started working. And I think that's what kind of led me to Jeffrey Epstein. You know, a girl saw me that, you know, I was struggling and I needed to make meets ends, and she was like, hey, like, I have a gig for you.
What did she say the gig was?
She had said that, you know, I was going to massage somebody, and there wasn't much specifics, but I wasn't expecting what led on to that day. Because I think with Jeffrey Epstein, it starts somewhere, but then it ends, you know, with either you having sex with him, whether you like it or not.
So tell us about the first day. You walk into his house, you've described it as like looking like something out of a movie.
It really was. He had a theme. He had a whole library, like, based on, like, I would say Beauty and the Beast, you know. He had a weird taste. When I got there, I waited in the office room, or I guess it would be called the living room, where he had all the pictures with, you know, all these elite people. And I was like, wow, like, why does this guy want to massage with me? Like, this is crazy.
And how old are you at the time?
I just turned 14. And my girlfriend was like, listen, don't worry, he's really cool. Like, you don't have nothing to worry about. We're gonna go upstairs, give him a massage. He's gonna give us $300 each, and we'll be out of here. And when we got up there, you know, it started with a massage, and then he wanted us to take our tops off. But obviously she has done that before. And I'm in a room where there's no windows. It's so dark. You can't see the door. It's so dark in there. You feel like peer pressure, you know, and you feel like you just walked into this important person's house. You don't know who he is. You see all these pictures with elite people. You're like, who is this person? I guess I'm just gonna do what she's doing.
After you went the first time, you give the massage. Who gives you $300?
The first time, the girl did. He handed it to her, and she gave it to me. I went there a couple more times with her, but then I went on my own because he asked me to come. So I would go see him as much as I could. As terrible as it sounds, I really thought there were higher hopes for me, you know, and coming already from a broken house where I needed to support my sister and my mother because somehow that became my job. I mean, it wasn't said, but I knew it was my job because somehow I felt like it was my fault that my stepfather went to jail, right? And I just had to work. I had to bring money to the house. So he would see me, I'd say 2-3 times a week in the beginning, you know, because when he has somebody new in his life, he likes to see them a lot. So I went there a whole bunch of times, and, you know, it led to, unfortunately, he forced me to have sex with him, basically. I really had no choice.
You would describe it as rape.
You know, it's weird because it wasn't like he raped me, but he like...
But you were 14. What was Jeffrey like as a person? Charming, funny, serious?
There was nothing charismatic about him. He was very selfish. He knew exactly how to own you, you know? Like, you can't go too far. You can't be going out. You can't be drinking. You can't be doing drugs. You can't be talking to people too much. He would always remind us of that. That was always a constant reminder with him. Because he would brag about everything, right? All what he would do, and that he was a brain surgeon, and he had connections with, you know, Victoria's Secret. So I thought that if I just played along, that I wouldn't be this immigrant from Brazil, you know, and that I would have something to look forward to, you know. It never happened, obviously, you know, because it came to a point when I was, I'd say 16 and a half or 17. He didn't want me anymore. He was just like, you're too old.
Over time, how much money would you say you got from Jeffrey Epstein?
I used to see him 2-3 times a week. You know, that's almost $900, $1,000, right? So,
did he ever ask you to bring your friends or recruit?
He did, eventually. He did.
What's been the hardest part for you in all of this?
Processing it all, because I feel like this could have been stopped in 2008, and I didn't know that I had this power to stop it.
We will hear more from Marina Lacerda and 6 other women who say that they were also abused by Jeffrey Epstein in our special a little later tonight. The Epstein survivors speak out. Coming up, a look at the day's other major headlines. Plus, we'll tell you about the lawsuit attempting to force the NCAA to allow college athletes to compete for 5 seasons instead of 4. And tonight's Powerball jackpot is a cool $1.4 billion. But how much will you get with the lump sum? We turn now to other headlines, including wildfires burning in the east and west. Thousands of lightning strikes in the past 24 hours have ignited fires across California. One major fire burning through a historic mining town. ABC's Trevor Ault has the latest.
Tonight, a gold rush-era mining town up in flames as a massive lightning-fueled fire southeast of Sacramento rages out of control. The 6.5 fire breaking out Tuesday west of Yosemite near the town of Chinese Camp, spreading fast. Firefighters battling flames from the ground and the air.
Some of the structures in this town have been standing since Chinese immigrants settled here in the gold rush of the mid-1800s, and overnight these flames turned the neighborhood into ash and rubble.
The fire is one of at least 22 that broke out Tuesday amid thousands of lightning strikes. CAL FIRE calling the group of fires the TCU September Lightning Complex Fire. All told, it's burned more than 20 square miles, and the rest of the Golden State is a tinderbox too. Overnight in Los Angeles, a car fire quickly spreading to brush in the heart of the Hollywood Hills, threatening homes, families sheltering in place. Fire choppers soon overhead, thankfully knocking it down within an hour. And prolonged dry conditions in the east are fueling fires there. Outside New York City, the Buck-a-Bear fire in Passaic County, New Jersey, burning more than 100 acres. And the cause now under investigation.
Our thanks to Trevor. The murder victim found at this year's Burning Man festival has been identified. Nevada law enforcement says Vadim Krugalov of Russia is the man whose body was found at the festival on Saturday night. Investigations are notably difficult at Burning Man as it's a temporary city that is dismantled soon after the festival ends, which was Monday. The so-called Ketamine Queen is pleading guilty to 5 criminal charges, including that she provided the drugs that ultimately led to the death of Friends star Matthew Perry. Jazz Yasmin Sanya is the last of 5 defendants to plead guilty in Perry's 2023 overdose death. She faces up to 45 years in prison. Coming up, Florida plans to become the first state in the nation to do away with vaccine mandates for children, with one state official likening mandates to slavery. Plus, one-on-one with Dallas Cowboys owner Jerry Jones. He opens up about his cancer treatment and that trade that sent shockwaves through Cowboys Nation. Florida moves to end all vaccine mandates for children. College athletes file a lawsuit challenging the red shirt rule, and the newest cast of Dancing with the Stars revealed. Those stories and more in tonight's rundown. Today, Florida announced that the state will begin to phase out all vaccine requirements for children. Florida's Surgeon General, alongside Governor Ron DeSantis, called the current requirements an immoral intrusion on people's rights bordering on slavery. Florida would become the first state to eliminate such vaccine requirements. More than 1,000 current and former employees across the Department of Health and Human Services signed a letter today calling for Health Secretary Robert F. Kennedy Jr.'s resignation. Staffers accuse the secretary of endangering the nation's health. In a statement to ABC News, the HHS said that the CDC has been broken for a long time, and it will take sustained reform and more personnel changes in order to restore trust in the institution. In an op-ed for the Wall Street Journal Tuesday, Kennedy said the CDC has squandered public trust. The 8-year-old boy who was bitten by a shark off the Florida coast is recovering well and in good spirits, according to the boy's family, who released a statement on Wednesday. The family said Richard Burrows was bitten by a black-tipped shark on Labor Day while snorkeling with his father and sister. The family says Richard's 10-year-old sister was instrumental in his rescue. The family also thanked rescuers, including a Good Samaritan who heard calls for help over the radio and helped apply tourniquets to the boy's leg. A pair of Vanderbilt football players are among 10 athletes suing the NCAA in an effort to force the association to allow college athletes to compete for 5 seasons instead of 4. The players' attorney said that the players were not aiming to completely remove any eligibility restrictions, but believe that they should be able to compete in games for all 5 years that they're allowed to be on the team. NCAA leaders and their lawyers have raised concerns in other cases that any change in eligibility rules would threaten the association's ability to place any limits on how long a player can compete in college. Meet the new cast of Dancing with the Stars. Celebrities include Olympic gold medalist Jordan Childs, actors Corey Feldman and Danielle Fishel, and author Hilaria Baldwin. Season 34 premieres Tuesday, September 16th at 8 p.m. on ABC and Disney+. The Powerball jackpot is now at a staggering $1.4 billion, the 4th largest in Powerball history. That's 40 drawings without a winning ticket that matched all 6 numbers. The next drawing is later tonight. The jackpot has an estimated cash value of more than $634 million before taxes. Now to an ABC News exclusive with Dallas Cowboys owner Jerry Jones ahead of the NFL season. He talks about his nearly 4-decade stewardship of America's team, including last week's stunning trade of star Micah Parsons. ABC's Rhiannon Alley sat down with him.
Hangs in, fires, end zone, touchdown! Tolbert the toes down, holds onto the ball, and Dallas jumps out with back-to-back scores.
When it comes to America's team, he's the commander-in-chief.
Jerry Jones. Built a dynasty for the shot.
Jerry Jones, the legendary owner, president, and general manager of the Dallas Cowboys, is getting personal and giving our cameras rare access hours before the regular season kicks off and just weeks after revealing he beat stage 4 skin cancer.
12 or so years ago, I had some cancer treatment. My doctors there at MD Anderson said, you need to do a lot of meditation.
The revelation, featured in the new Netflix docuseries, America's Team, The Gambler and His Cowboys.
This is a soap opera 365 days a year. The effort to make the docuseries had us retracing a lot of our years and my steps. And a part of that steps was a very significant effort to have treatments in several places.
Jerry says he's tumor-free thanks to an experimental cancer treatment of a PD-1 inhibitor, which blocks a specific protein.
Going through a
through cancer treatments, one of the hardest things anyone can do, let alone doing that while owning a team. Was there ever a moment where you thought maybe this is too much, maybe I need to step back?
No, not at all. Really, it was motivational. And it basically gave strength. I can look no further than the players on the field out here. These guys play hurt, and they line up out there every day and go. And there's no question that being around that atmosphere makes you realize that it's really okay if you don't feel all right.
The news of his diagnosis, only one set of downs in the 82-year-old's Hall of Fame career. Jerry Jones didn't get to the top by pleasing everyone. The unapologetic executive recently stirred up more controversy with the trade of star rusher Micah Parsons after contentious contract negotiations. Cowboys fans have a lot of feelings about it. Do you feel like this is going to be a turning point in getting the Cowboys back to the championship?
We have two kinds of capital or currency in the NFL. One of them is draft picks, and the other is the financial, because every team is limited to the same amount of resources to spend. And having said that, Micah enabled us to have 4, possibly as many as 6 players for the future. That's a good trade when you need numbers. I'll take the numbers every time.
The Dallas Cowboys are one of the most profitable brands today, worth nearly $13 billion.
I'm the #1 salesman of the NFL, and I love the game, and I can see where it's many aspects of it are just bigger than life and can be shown, and our fans can get to be a part of that beyond when just we score a touchdown.
But at the heart of the business is his family, which includes his 3 children.
They really are as much a part of what we're talking about, the life in football and sport, and the challenges and the euphoria that goes with it. There's much part of that as me.
What do you hope your legacy will be?
Oh, I hope right there at that top they said he was a good daddy.
Our thanks to Rhiannon Alley and Jerry Jones for that conversation. That is our show for this hour. I'm Linsey Davis. Be sure to stay tuned to ABC News Live for more context and analysis of the day's top stories. Thanks so much for streaming with us.